Okay. I want to welcome you to the Wildfire Ready Quarterly Coalition meeting. And before we begin, I'm Karen Wcislo. I'm the Firewise lead for Greater Cement Hill, which is this neighborhood. And before we begin with our invited speakers, I'd like to make a couple of announcements. On the back table, when you leave, if you could look, there is a list of Firewise communities that have added Ann Fites-Kaufman in the Wildfire Ready Coalition as one of their regional coordinators. If you're not on that list, your community, then when we send out emails just to the leaders from the Wildfire Ready Coalition, you won't get it. Okay, so make sure your community is on that list by going into your portal and adding Joanne. And there's you can take a picture of it and I'll show you where to go. I want to emphasize that this coalition is really for you all, and a lot of what you suggest inspires what is being done. And I'd like to just cover a couple of these. Several suggestions at the last meeting. One was talking about spacing of different tree types for defensible space. And that was addressed in the virtual workshop done with Joanne and Dario. Trees I View. I think it's on the website. If you haven't seen it, look at it on the website. It's excellent. And it was followed up with the winter walks with the various foresters and forest experts that talk about that. And there's still four more winter walks. Okay. There was a question about logging on private roads, and Joanne is working with Captain Benedict, a registered forester, to do a Zoom presentation on that for you. Another one was talking about how do you do attractive landscaping if you have nothing in your 0 to 5 foot zone, right? Isn't that the question all of us get? On Saturday, Terry facilitated an excellent workshop. It was Kevin Marini from the UC Davis Extension. It was called Fire Smart Landscaping. And he also talked about how to transplant all your mature shrubs and trees that are in your 0 to 5 zone. Because you know those camellias, you really want to keep them, right? So there's a way to do that. It was an excellent presentation. My takeaway from it is that all plants burn, and 0 to 5 is going to be no plants. It hasn't quite come there yet, but that's, I think, what personally I took away from that presentation, and it will be required eventually. And as I was driving home, I was thinking, it's kind of an aesthetic shift. Remember Arizona used to have all those green lawns for 20 years, and then they realized they don't have any water. So now they have cactus everywhere and rock. It's going to be that same kind of aesthetic shift. We're going to have to learn to not have the plantings right around our house. One other question that came up was on vegetation management on county roads. And we have 2 presenters tonight from the county to address exactly that question. And at the end, I will ask people, and if we don't have time to do it aloud, if you can come up and write if you have any suggestions for future meetings or to be covered in another format. The presenters will take questions during their presentation. They'll also be around at the end, but because we are on Zoom, to ask a question, you have to have a microphone. So Bob is going to go out to the audience when there's questions and give you a microphone. Okay? I think that is it.
X marks the spot.
X marks the spot. There wasn't even standing on it. Okay. This is to try to keep the presenters so that the people on Zoom know who's presenting, because most of us do this while we talk, right? And the Zoom people can't see them. I'd like to introduce Ann Fites-Kaufman, the president of the board of directors for the Wildfire Ready Coalition, and I think all of you know her.
Yay, Joanne. Thanks, Karen.
All right, we'll see how this works with a crutch. At least I'm down to one crutch. It was with surgery for my ankle I wanted, so it's all good. I want to welcome you all here tonight. This is, we're 2 days away from our 1-year anniversary, and it's been quite a wild ride. We're going to talk a little bit about where we've been and where we want to go. So, next slide, please. We're getting them ready.
Congratulations to the Wildfire Ready Coalition for our first
Oh.
year anniversary. What do you guys think?
You didn't tell me that one.
No, I just surprised you.
All right, this is our mission here, and I think it's really important. I'm violating the rule I'm moving. I think it's really important to look at because we thought of it carefully and we've been adhering to it. So we're a nonprofit, volunteer driven. We finally have one very part-time person, Beth, I'll introduce you to later. And we're dedicated to reducing the risk of catastrophic wildfire in Nevada County, and that's all we've been working on. We support and empower residents, visitors, communities, and especially Firewise communities. How many of you feel like you've been empowered by us this year? Awesome. Almost all the hands in the audience, people in Zoom world. Through mentoring, sharing best practices, fire safety projects, and education. We're really all about education and learning from each other. And through collaboration, we strive to create a more resilient landscape and community. So we're doing what we said we wanted to do. Next slide. I'm gonna point over that one. Why we are here. Next slide.
No. I could be deficient in this. Introduction, I'm Kristen Cook, go by KC. I head up the UBET Firewise community. Most of you have heard me talk before because I see so many familiar faces. Great to have you out here. I, along with Joanne and a handful of other people in this room, Jeff, Bob, a few others, got together after looking at our experience as being a Firewise leader and what we felt was missing. And through frustration of all of us trying to individually figure out how to do better in our Firewise communities, we thought, wouldn't it be better if we came together and took the existing Firewise coalition and make it even stronger, right? And if we could put some teeth to that, we could really do a lot more for the community and the county. So we got together, all of us Firewise leaders, as well as some Firewise experts. Dario here is in the room with us as well. He was one of our founders. And we came together during last winter, post the LA fires, and said, we have to do more and we have to do it faster. So that was kind of the impetus. And then we looked at an idea. This is kind of powerful. Firewise, everybody raise your hand if you're in a Firewise community. There we go. Firewise is a program and a PA. It's basically a way to encourage neighbors to help neighbors. But in and of itself, it doesn't mean that we become ready for wildfire, right? It just means it gives us permission to talk to our neighbors and things of that nature. But what we're trying to get to is making sure that our yards, properties, neighborhoods, lands can handle the fire when it comes. That means we're fire adaptive. So as we look at what Firewise is, it's the program that allows us, gives us permission to talk to our neighbors as we're on this journey to become fire adaptive. You're going to hear a little bit more about this later, but this notion of scaling and resilience is super important as we broaden our reach throughout the community and what we need to accomplish. She's not very mobile.
Most of our time as volunteers have been spent on support for Firewise communities. We helped 16 Firewise communities either form or a few of them get reinstated. Some of them just needed a little bit of help, but it was something they really needed help with. More than 24 leader mentoring programs. Raise your hand if I helped you with anything or Dario at all. Yeah, a lot of people here. Dario and I made more than 12 presentations at annual Firewise community meetings. We've held 4 of these quarterly meetings where you're able to get good information and also network with each other, and more than 18 workshops, and we really added a lot of information to the website. So we spent a lot of time trying to provide more resources for you. Next slide. And ourselves, because we're all leaders. We started some education programs, and these are all, for the community in general, but also they're things that we've heard from Firewise community leaders you want to know more about in your residence. So we have a Wildfire Ready Homes program that's based on the insurance, the Institute for Business and Home Insurance checklist, which is becoming the standard for insurance companies. So we wanted to keep up to that for you.
Good afternoon, Sandie.
Fun with the laptop today. We also started a forestry, fire, and fuels program. Can you go back one, please? That's okay. And Karen talked about the guided winter walks. We also had safe pile burning, one last year, one this year already. And I made a presentation on tools for fuels that we have recorded. We'll be doing more of that. So we don't want to just tell you to do your defensible space. We want to help you know how to do it in the most effective way. We're here to help. Next slide. And then we've done community engagement and education. On the left are the wildfire readiness resolutions. So Kristen Cook over here used to be in marketing, and she's a creative genius. She's always coming up with these ideas to keep something new, a new message out there to keep us going and active. We also have had events like the Hearts on Fire, where we try to reach out to people in the community that aren't normally involved. Not that all people that like art are not involved, but we had wildfire-inspired art, and we got over 200 people that came to that. And Joanne Drummond, if you know her, made the lasagna, and some people said it was the best they ever had. Yeah. We had
really good music.
Oh yeah, really good music too, 3 times through. That's right. Yep, really good music. And the really good music was also at our event last year in June at Pioneer Park. Wildfire, ready or not, wildfire season is here, where the Grass Valley Fire Department did a burning mulch demonstration. So I've told you and many other people, mulch burns, well, we demonstrated it. And then we also have messages that we've been sending out throughout the season that are relevant to that time. So we, with red flag, what does that mean? Is it just weather? What do you do? So we gave you some ideas of what to do. So we've just been cranking out things, keeping people engaged. Next slide, please. We've also made a lot of community connections. We got a contract with Nevada City Office of Emergency Services to help form new Firewise communities and engage them. And what we got out of that was free use of venues and workshops that anybody could attend. So that was a great marriage there. With Nevada County OES, we've been coordinating our messaging and working with them when they want to get outreach out to the Firewise community leaders, like survey that you got on your needs for green waste dumpsters. We were invited to be a member of the Law Enforcement and Fire Protection Council, so I attend those. And we've also been going and participating in the Western Nevada County Community Foundation's COAD and VOAD, and I can never remember what those are, but it's community, I think it's community organizations. Basically, when there's an emergency, we're making sure everybody is already working together ahead of time. So when that happens, we can coordinate. And maybe when Alex comes up here later, she'll tell us what that actually stands for. And we always work with CAL FIRE and the fire department.
Joanne, let them know there's a couple chairs up front.
There's a couple chairs up front. There's at least 3. Okay. Next slide, please. That one,
I think that's it for your
that's mine.
1 year anniversary.
That is mine, yeah.
I don't know why I'm reading this now. Here, it's got that. Got it?
Okay, the next two presentations are on county, well, really three presentations on roads and fire safety. And the first will be David Garcia, who is the director of the Office of Public, Department of Public Works.
That is me.
And then Alex Keeble-Toll will be talking about who is the OES director, will be talking about private roads. No, yes,
Lots of stuff.
lots of stuff. Okay.
We play well, we got it. Okay.
It's not our first rodeo. So right off the bat, somebody that's way better than me was supposed to do this part of the presentation. Lexine, she couldn't be here. I said I'd fill in for you, so you guys should get the B team, but we're going to try our best today.
The mic a little closer.
Control.
Yeah, there we go.
Quick song, and then we're going to get into this. Okay, so first things first, I want to do an overview of our road program, just so you guys have an understanding of what it takes for us to maintain county roads. The next thing we're going to do is dip into a little bit about encroachment permits. That's where I'm lacking because Lexine's the expert, but I'm going to do my best to pull up and get you guys the information you need. And then the last thing is we're going to talk about a lot of the stuff that we've been working on primarily with OES. We've done a lot of collaborative efforts to try to enhance our programs and make sure we're filling in gaps where we can. The stuff, things, what do I point at that? Aha. Okay, so first things first. You know, Nevada County's big. It's 560 miles of county maintained roads spread over something like 974 square miles of county. And we got stuff that's in the deep snow and stuff down in the valley. And so we're dealing with a lot. Another big problem that we have is that Nevada County has a lot of interesting roads. Significant portion is unpaved. A lot of them don't meet minimum road standards. A lot of them have no shoulders, if any. And then on top of that, we also maintain a lot of CSAs and PRDs, which are private communities that basically pay for road maintenance in varying degrees of funding. And most roads in the county, as you guys know, actually aren't ours. Most roads are privately maintained roads throughout the county. So we do all of this, and we do it like, you know, everybody in government will cry to you guys. We do it with too few resources and competing priorities. So, you know, we're always struggling to try to spread our resources and make sure we're doing the best we can in all these different areas. One of them is just pavement condition. 560 miles of roads, I think 260 miles of that is actually paved roads. That's the county's largest capital asset. And also in a fire emergency, it's really important that our roads are in good condition so people can get in and out, right? Then we have to buy equipment, we have to fund our programs, and we have to do veg management. And all of those things take resources. Another challenge that we have here in Nevada County is seasonality. Everywhere that has a road department deals with seasonality, but we have like real seasons in parts of our county that we have to deal with. As anybody that was in town a week ago can recall. So, you know, during the summer months, we have to do pavement stuff because that's when the plants are open. That's also the time where it's dangerous for us to do fire vegetation work. So literally, typically in the summer, we're doing pavement stuff. In the winter, during storm events, we're plowing snow. We're dealing with trying to dig ourselves out of all the down trees and all the stuff that happened last week. And this year we've been pretty lucky. So we've been a little bit able to tackle more vegetation management than usual because we had a really nice January and early February. But in a year like Snowmageddon, we're really impacted during the winter and it limits our ability to do some of that vegetation work. And some of the other stuff that we're doing throughout the year, I mean, we're clearing ditches, we're grading the other 200 miles of roads that aren't paved, we're fixing bridges, we have 50 bridges in our system, we're responding to service requests, we're doing sign work, it's endless, right? You can imagine. So what that does is it really limits our window that we have to just focus our crews on vegetation. Same doesn't like me. So we do all of that work with 25 full-time road crew guys. And we sometimes augment those crews, or we typically augment those crews. Like, for example, during the winter, we have 5 temps that are helping us plow snow. But 25 guys dealing with 560 miles of road. Basically, it's 5 guys to a district. And the districts aren't exactly supervisorial districts, but they're similar to the supervisorial districts. So just to give you a sense of that, another really big thing that impacts us is Donner Summit. Even when it's raining down here and not too bad down here, our crews literally are going 24/7 up at Donner Summit a lot of the time. And that takes 2 or 3 guys constantly rotating on 12-hour shifts. So if you only have 25 crew guys, that's a pretty big impact on our overall ability to do things. The next thing is equipment. This is a problem for us across the board. We have an aging fleet. We are struggling with state regulations on CARB and other things that are requiring us to replace our fleet. But one of the things that it really impacts is, most of our vegetation equipment is 10 to 20 years old. We have invested in recent years in getting some new equipment, but this is a constant struggle for road program. Snow plow costs $700,000. Some of this equipment's not cheap. So if you can imagine, this is a constant challenge. So what does that all equate to? So typically that means we can, with our road crew, we can get about 25 to 30 miles a year, or really that's about 50 to 60 lane miles a year, going up and back and tackling the roads. And that's 10 feet out, 15 feet out. So that's where we're focused with our limited resources. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's our capacity, and that's what we really try to commit to. This thing's really messing with me.
Just say next slide now.
Yeah, okay. I'll figure it out. Okay. By the time I'm done. So one of the ways we try to augment our program, because we know we need to get more than that to have a program in Nevada County, is we try to get federal grants or different grants as much as possible. This is one of the things that we've been really lucky to partner with OES, because Alex back there is one of the best grant writers probably in Nevada County, maybe in the state, I don't know, but she's really good. And we've been able to get a couple of grants over the last couple of years. We got a CAL-FIRE grant that we completed. We are hoping that this FEMA grant goes through eventually, but we've been working on this for a couple of years, which will get us another 140 additional miles on top of our miles. We're completing this work right now, literally this year. So anytime we have an opportunity to augment our programs with outside funding, we do so. Another thing that we've really tried to do over the last couple of years is really look at our budget and see, is there any resources for additional vegetation management through contract work? This is one of the things that's going to be budget dependent. And right now I spent an entire day in budget meetings. What a long day. Anyways, but where and when we have the opportunity, we're going to try to contract some of this vegetation work out. We've been able to do vegetation management contracts for the last 2 years. We're also doing a spraying program now that, because one of the challenges in Nevada County is you go through, you get a piece of road clean, and literally looks like you weren't there the next year, right? So it's a constant challenge for us, and one of the ways that we're trying to tackle that is to augment our program with a very consistent spraying program. The last one of these is the board supervisor actually gave us some funds, an additional funding pot to do an additional second contract this year, which we're bidding out right now. So as you can see, what we're trying to do is, on top of that 25 to 30 miles that our road crew guys can do in-house, we're trying to get additional 50 miles-ish a year in contract work where we can get it, and also try to go back through and use spray programs to try to minimize or make that program more efficient. Encroachment permits. Bear with me. I'm going to wing this one. So we require encroachment permits anytime somebody wants to do vegetation management work in county roads. The obvious reason is we don't want anybody to get hurt, and we also don't want to impact traffic or stop traffic from being able to get through, because folks have emergencies, they have things they need to do. So we try to minimize that, control that, make sure nobody's overly impacted by work that's done in the roads. So the way we do that is we require folks to apply for an encroachment permit. So for Firewise communities, we understand that this is an onerous process. And so what we've really tried to do, and Lexine, the person that's supposed to be here, has really tried to do, is look at the program and see any way that we can make this simpler, provide resources, and also try to get the cost down. We've been able to bring the cost down from the normal encroachment permit cost to $157 minimum cost. We do require minimum things, insurance. We require a site plan to show us exactly how you're going to do traffic control and other things. But this is, something that we've really focused on to try to make this process easier. I have a flyer over here that talks about the requirements for the encroachment permit process and also has links and other things and resources on our website. But we put a lot of effort into trying to beef this part of our program up so that you guys have those resources and that information. Oh, the other thing that I have in here, I knew there was another thing. There's another form that I brought flyers for, which is example site plans. Because that was another thing that we talked about and that was requested, and we have example site plans. Oh, and my favorite thing, we have Lexine's card. I'm gonna hand that out to all of you guys, and then you guys get the real scoop. Lexine, she gets back. Okay, and so just kind of summarize some of the other collaborative stuff that we've been trying to do over the last year. Continue to align our efforts with the road crew to the evacuation study. Oh, this is a big deal. So another thing that we did is we went back through our road program and we come up with a list of what we're going to do every year. And we aligned our plan to the evacuation route study that was completed in 2024 to make sure we're hitting the priority routes from that plan in our multi-year plan. And so as we go through and we're doing new stuff, we're focusing first on those major evacuation routes that were identified in the evacuation study. So that's one thing, and it had 208 miles, which if you're doing math means it's a multi-year plan for us to get to that 208 miles. And the other part of that is obviously there are places where that are worse than others that we have to tackle. Transparency and resources through our website. We've spent a lot of work, again, Lexine has done a lot of work to update and improve our website, provide those resources. Continued and enhanced coordination with OES. I cannot say enough how much I appreciate those folks and the work that they do and how much the collaboration has meant to our team, because it's really nice to be able to partner and try to get the biggest bang for our buck for the community. And I know Alex will say this too, I raised my family here, I live here, I have friends here, so it's important to me, right? I'm not just doing this for a paycheck, I'm doing this because I love this community. So trying to do the best job we can. And then the last part, community-based opportunities, trying to simplify the encroachment process. With that, bunch of resources if you guys need them, take a picture. And I'm sure you guys can share this later, and I'm happy to answer questions if that's the thing that we do. Not yet. Alex first.
Do you want to ask it now?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Wait.
Okay. We'll see between later.
I have real bad short-term memory, so if you ask me later,
I've had a really long day, so we'll see how we do here. Shall I just tell you the advance the slides here? Okay. So I'm Alice Keeble-Toll. I'm the Director of Emergency Services for Nevada County. As you know, David alluded to, management of vegetation alongside roadways is really a shared mission between Department of Public Works and OES, because we're really looking through the lens of specifically wildfire, and wildfire and vegetation management that we do that is either in partnership with Public Works if it involves county roads, but really kind of at their direction, or ways we can support community members for doing that vegetation work along private roads. And then the final layer of that is ways we can support folks like CAL FIRE and our other first responders in their priorities so that we can really, at the end of the day, make sure that we're getting resources in and people out effectively. And the one other thing I will say is that this is also on the wildfire front, a very coordinated effort with our sheriff's office. So we have Andrew Liller, who is Sheriff's Office Sergeant, and he's embedded in our office. And that's because at the end of the day, when evacuations happen, it's the Sheriff's Office who's leading that effort. So we really, just like we need the input of our fire folks, we also need the input of the Sheriff's Office when we're identifying where it is most important that we go. Next slide. So we really lean into our 2024 evacuation study when we're identifying priorities. Why? Because as I'm sure you guys are mostly familiar, in Nevada County, 92% of us live in very high fire hazard severity zones. We recognize that vegetation along probably the roads of everyone in this room could use some level of improvement. And so when you're looking at a landscape where work can be done everywhere, we really do need to have a strategic planning vehicle that helps us prioritize where do we go and how do we go. So our evacuation study did a couple of things. It looked countywide to identify the 5 most evacuation impacted communities countywide. And really what that was telling us was, where are there communities where if we had an evacuation scenario, we would have the most number of people stuck on the road somewhere for the longest duration of time. So where are those most significant impacts going to occur? And then in addition, we reached out to you, to our firewise communities, to our HOAs, to our road associations, to get a sense from you of what are those more place-based needs that aren't going to show up in a county level analysis, but that are things that you observe every day that are very specific and that are evacuation concerns that potentially we can help you address. Next slide. So what did we learn? We learned that the 5 most evacuation impacted communities are in Western Nevada County, so Alta Sierra, Greenhorn Road, Cascade Shores, Banner Mountain, Lake of the Pines, and Lake Wildwood. And so when we're looking at grant opportunities, these are really the big buckets where we're trying to direct resources, because our planning effort has shown us that this is the most evacuation impacted locations countywide. Next slide. So what are we doing? David mentioned that we have a FEMA HMGP grant that's for roadside vegetation abatement countywide. So in Alta Sierra, there's a bunch of roadways within that community that were included in that phase 1 planning effort. So phase 1 is mapping the county right-of-way so that it was geospatially mapped, and then also doing a treatment design for that vegetation management. And then also providing free community green waste. And I'm excited to hear that you guys hopefully all got the survey that was pushed out, because we really are trying to tailor the resources that we're offering to what your needs are. We want to know from you what's most helpful, so please do fill out that survey. Next slide. Greenhorn Road. Many of you are familiar with our critical evacuation route grant that we were offering. These were micro grants, but micro grants that were a bit larger in size, between $20,000 and $60,000. This was through congressionally directed spending that we made a request, and that came down as a U.S. Forest Service grant. And so what we're able to do here is we're able to push those dollars out on the ground with one-to-one match. And that's an opportunity where we are partnering with Department of Public Works, because they got board-directed funds that's along many of our county-maintained roads. And so we can come in with this critical evacuation route funding and design projects where we say, okay, Public Works is going to do the work on the county-maintained road. We'll do work on a private road, and we'll match those dollars and leverage and extend. So in the Greenhorn Road community, I know that, folks in the Banner Mountain and Fireways community in Greenhorn, you guys have come up with a really innovative model of kind of leveraging one another's match to meet that match requirement. And I just want to say, this critical evacuation route grant program, I think, has been complicated and a learning experience, because it's hard to get your head around how to design a project with one-to-one match. So I really appreciate the efforts that all the Firewise communities have made to navigate that process. It's not ideal to have that one-to-one match, but I also think it's really important to understand that that's how most grants work. So whether we're delivering an entire project or whether it's being delivered at the community scale, the Firewise community scale, I think it is good to know that all the work you guys do is actual measurable dollars that can be counted as match towards these projects. Next slide. So Banner Mountain Cascade Shores, already mentioned the Greenhorn partnership. This project is also part of the Greater Banner Mountain Ingress Egress Project, which we, as an outcome of our Community Wildfire Protection Plan, identify the area around Banner Mountain, kind of from about Greenhorn across all the way to Cascade Shores, and all of those evacuation routes coming out of that area as being an area of critical need, a high priority for our project. And so we actually designed a project, and we worked with Chief Nikki as far as designing that project and getting it into CAL FIRE in a youth strategic plan. And so what that means is we've aligned the priorities of that project with CAL FIRE's needs as a first responder and gotten that recognized in the unit plan, which then allows us to go after funding and say, this is a recognized priority, not just in our evacuation study, not just in our community wildfire protection plan, but also by CAL FIRE and the Nevada Eagle Placer Unit. So we haven't actually secured funding for this project, but we have been able to elevate it as a priority and kind of done the back end analysis of like, where would this project be? How many miles would it be? What would that look like? And that's all kind of front loading the process so that when a grant opportunity does come forward, we're able to act on it quickly. Next slide. Lake of the Pines is another area where we're working on a critical evacuation grant, and really kudos to Ricky Martinez, who's our supervising defensible space inspector. He is very familiar with that community, like many of us. He calls this place home, is raising his children here. And so he was really invested in figuring out how do we do some mitigation work in there. In addition to this, and I don't have in this presentation, he has been working to address the dark horse parcels, which include dark horse and county maintained parcels in partnership with CAL FIRE's Washington Reach crew, so that we can get those parcels treated and add that additional zone of protection to this community. Next slide. Lake Wildwood. So Lake Wildwood is one of those communities that is the 5 most evacuation impacted, and this is the first one of the 5 most evacuation impacted where we've actually pulled down a large grant. So this is a FEMA HMGP grant. It's currently in the planning phase. It is about 700 parcels and 1,100 acres. And so it's currently where we're getting right of entry from landowners, doing that treatment design and that environmental compliance. We're working with the Nevada County Resource Conservation District, which I cite because it's important to think not just about what does it look like to initially implement these projects, but what does it look like to actually maintain that and manage it over time. And so specifically in the Penn Valley area, the vegetation is ripe for management through livestock, and the RCD is uniquely positioned. It's also ripe for use of prescribed fire after some of that hazardous brush is removed. And so by partnering with the RCD, we're hoping to tee landowners up with resources and opportunities for what maintenance might look like after that project is implemented. So the community appendix, what did we learn? So this was really not unlike the survey about what kind of green waste services are beneficial to you. This was us asking communities, what are your evacuation constraints within your more localized setting? And no major surprises here for a gold rush community where many of us live down what were wagon roads to mines, how the miners got out to where they did, why they thought it was a good idea. I often marvel at that, but we live in these communities. Many of our roads are one-way in and out. They have limited networks. They have limited turnouts. There's often concerns about evacuating into other communities where one of your evacuation routes may put you right into another community. Next slide. So this is a bit more complex for us to address, right? Each of your communities has very unique needs. And, you know, full disclosure, those critical evacuation grants, we had really hoped that the scope could be broader than just vegetation management, and that it could be used to support turnouts or road surfacing or other concerns that also impact evacuation options. Unfortunately, or fortunately, for better or for worse, those funds came down through U.S. Forest Service, and so it has to have a nexus with vegetation management. But I just want to cite that when we went after that funding, we had recognized the community concerns and had hoped to kind of provide a broader scope to address them. What we've really done that I think has been successful is our free roadside shipping. So the board directed funds to us to address green waste concerns in the community. What we found in working with you, and I'm sure you'll provide additional feedback to us, is that chipping is really advantageous because if you don't have a truck or you don't have the ability to get your green waste to the McCourtney transfer station for our free green waste days there, it's really lovely to pile it on the side of the road and have someone come by and chip it. We are looking into chip and haul for this next year because it's not ideal to leave that biomass, even though it's rearranged fuel, so not as hazardous than service and ladder fuel, but it's still rearranged fuel. So we're looking at what would that look like to actually chip and haul that for communities. But this just gives you a snapshot of Greater Cinnamon Hill Fireways communities. You know, you're seeing in these green triangles all the piles of debris that were chipped with additional piles that when this map was pulled, which was in January, were to be processed, shown by purple triangles. And so this is what that kind of chipping program can do for a community. It can really address vegetation that's all across the community to the benefit of your collective evacuation route. Okay. I mentioned this, but this gives you more specifics on that critical micro grant program. This is a countywide program, so this is giving you a snapshot of Fireways community on Donner Summit, Powell Mountain. We don't often get to talk to them, but or about them in this forum, but they've really been successful in addressing vegetation along 6 miles of roads. Next slide. This is a larger project where we're working with U.S. Forest Service Tahoe National Forest under one of now 3 GNAs that we have with Tahoe National Forest. And so this is addressing an evacuation alternative that was identified by the Jackass Flats Fireways community, tearing off our South Beaver Rim project. And we have treated, at this point, actually, I should have adjusted that. We're almost up to 374 acres on that project. So that's zooming out to partnership with our federal partners. So I mentioned partnership with the CAL FIRE Washington Ridge crew. We've been very successful with Cashy Road between Spot Lake and Highway 20. The next slide. And this is showing you like Cashy Road before. Came in with the CAL FIRE crew. They piled and then chipped. And this was a really fruitful partnership, a really unique way to bring resources together because we as OES collected right of entry, did environmental permitting, provided the chipper, provided the necessary toileting needs, and then CAL FIRE came in and cut and piled and did that work. And I will say dollar for dollar, this was the best work I've seen at the lowest price point. So really an incredible opportunity to leverage our collective local resources to get work done on the ground. And I think, yep, okay. And I think that I'm way over. And so this is last project, and this is actually going to the Board of Sierra Nevada Conservancy on Thursday for new work with U.S. Forest Service for the town of Washington. And I do think that that's all I have to say. This is supposed to be later, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. And we'll take questions afterwards, so we respect the time for our other presenters.
Okay, my name is Jeff Peach. My wife and I have lived up on the backside of Banner for 40 years. We're 1.7 miles down a private road, and our eldest son decided that he wanted to build a house out there with a few parcels. So we went down to the building department, and they said, well, before you can get a permit, you have to meet Dan Collins. And Dan Collins is a deputy fire marshal?
Yes, yes.
Deputy fire marshal with CAL FIRE. And Dan came out. He is basically inspecting these private roads and talking about the requirements, the new requirements, newish, I guess, requirements that are needed. Anyways, I'd like to introduce Dan Collins. He'll talk about this permitting process if you're thinking of building a house.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Peach. So back in April 2023, after several seasons of mass destruction of wildfires, we've seen a lot of people, we've had problems with evacuation routes and things like that. So the Board of Forestry came together and decided that we were going to decipher what the difference is between a driveway and a private road. And so a private road is distinguished as serving more than 4 houses or 4 parcels on a road. And so what the state and the Board of Forestry has decided to do is to make those lanes, we killing people and getting out of the fires, not in the houses in the fires, but in the evacuation routes. And so on those private roads, what the state has decided to do is make 2 10-foot lanes. And, yep, sorry for that. So it'll be 2 10-foot lanes on if you're servicing 4 houses or more now. And so that it's kind of a new thing, and it's a unfortunate task. But what happened is, if you're going to be that person putting in that last 5th house, 4th house, or a new residence is what classifies the road improvements. So now you have to bring that road up into 2 10-foot lanes, so 20-foot wide road. Obviously, that doesn't apply to everywhere we live here in Nevada County, correct? So working with the Board of Supervisors and prior fire marshals and other fire departments, I represent some other fire departments and things in Nevada County and Sierra County. And also to make that happen, the state has allowed exceptions. So that exception to that 20-foot wide road is a turnout every 400 feet. And that's to enable, a car coming out and cars coming into the fire or vice versa, a pull out. So we're not lodge pulling cars up and things like that. So that's the Title 14. If you guys need to find that on the internet, it's very easy to find. And depending on the elevation here on the western side of Nevada County, we're pretty lucky. 3,500 feet and below, it doesn't have to be paved unless it's over 10% grade. And so that's another big cost thing that people are realizing. And another thing too, in that Title 14 with driveways, we all seen out Sierra driveways and other dealing with a project up here on North Bloomfield, very steep driveways. And so anything over 16% now in Nevada County has to be paved. And so that's another big thing that people aren't realizing. And that's just due to what we've run into is in the last snowstorm, maybe that's a great one, is fire apparatus can't get in with a grade from 16 to 20%. That's why they decided to use an all-weather surface, which means paving or concrete. So that's a tough thing. And then the county is no longer allowing any driveways over 20% in Nevada County. So any questions? I know it's a lot to throw at you, and I don't want to take up too much time. But we're just trying to realize that those evacuation routes are our main focus point of getting people out, and that's why we're trying to focus on. I know roads don't always fit into practical effects due to topography and power lines and things like that. But that's why that exception is there for those turnouts. And we hope you guys can realize and vision those turnouts and getting vehicles in and out on that situation. So any other questions? I think Director Garcia covered most of it, but anything else I can add to it? I'll get questions at the end. I know there's going to be a lot of questions on this. This is a very touchy subject. It's California Title 14, and it was introduced and went in April 2013. It's very easy. Just Google it. It comes up and it'll give you. It's a 16-page document, and it gives you all the guidelines. And then the county of Nevada County does have some tighter restrictions that fits to the county. And so there's some things on there like vegetation on the side of the road and those kind of things. Those all tie into stricter county regulations. So those are just state guidelines. All right. Any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I can see. I can see why all these rules and regulations, what you're trying to do is make it safer, closer to. You have to swallow that. Anyway, how does this stuff get paid for? I mean, I live out, our whole roof's on private road. We have 160 parcels. And I'm on the road committee that we maintain it, collect dues and stuff, but my God, making it 20 feet wide, there's no way. Or
Yeah,
even the turnout.
That's why also I'm on there as the Grim Reaper in Nevada County right now. It falls on the person that is putting in the new single family residence. It falls on them. I'm working with a lot of road associations in the U-Bed area, Greenhorn area. There's road associations out there that came to me and they've asked, hey, how do we want to improve the road to make a road standard? And I've seen people where they're doing small sections every part of the year to improve that road on making the 2 lanes or the turnouts, but it does fall on the single homeowner in putting in that single family residence.
I guess I would think it's just gonna mean people that have land out there on buildable parcels. It's not gonna be worth anything because nobody can afford to do it, and they have to do that stuff.
Correct, and also I don't want to get too much into it, but like a human life, the state of California values at $7.2 million for a life lost, and we lost how many in LA? So that's why that comes into, and that's where these numbers are coming from, is that human life's crisis. We're losing people getting out of fires, and so that's the way to enable it is 2 lanes to try to get that out, to get access out of the evacuation routes. That's what we're trying to do. One more thing too is just if you realize, Mr. Peach was talking about how he lives down almost a mile down the road, and there's dead end road standards too that apply to this too now. So if you were to combine or split your lot, so I have a 20-acre lot and I want to split it into 2 10-acre lots. This is a big pill to swallow. And so Nevada County has said if you're going to split your 2 lots, the dead end road standards apply to that. And each size of your parcel has a certain amount of road length to it. I don't have those memorized because I don't want to give false information here on that. But just based on that, so if you split your lot and you don't have a secondary access, so meaning you have one way in and a different way out, that project will not be feasible. Those discretionary projects would be like splitting a lot or putting an RV park. I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to do RV parks right now, or mobile home parks due to the tiny homes on wheels type things. And that's really slowing down a lot of those housing projects going in rural high fire stuff areas in rural Nevada County. So, yes.
Nevada County has a proposed ordinance coming up that will be allowing our people to live in RVs on properties. Now, would this mean if with all of the other areas of it, the roads would have to be widened because we're doubling the population on that lot?
No, this is a battle we lost with the state of California and law. ADUs and those type of housing, secondary housing dwelling units will not have to meet the road standards, only single family residents and discretionary projects. It's kind of an unfortunate thing, but you will still have to have a driveway. So if you have a driveway that's going to service more than 4 of those type things, yes. But if you're going to be that 5th parcel being an ADU, a tiny home on wheels, or the alternative housing coming up, those rules will not apply to those projects coming forward. Yep. So that's it. I'll be standing around at the event and to answer any questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you. We just like to keep very excited by having all these stimulating discussions here, huh? Alex, would you come help us with the new Code Red situation?
I will, and I've been told I have -5 minutes because I was not in the first section. So, apologies. So first thing, Code Red is no longer. So I want to be really clear that Code Red is no longer. In November, you guys are probably aware there was a data breach with the Code Red platform. Code Red had been purchased by Crisis 24, and at a certain point, Code Red, as we know it, was no longer going to be supported, and all of those data migrated to Crisis 24. So that has happened, but Code Red, as you know it, is no longer. We took that opportunity to preemptively do something that we had been planning to do in OES already, which was release a request for proposals so that we could evaluate the available alert and warning platforms out there. It's just a good thing to do as a market test to see where capabilities are at, to make sure that we're choosing an alert and warning platform that best serves the needs of our rural community, of our sheriff's office, of our search and rescue, all the multitude of entities that rely on our alert and warning platform for a variety of different purposes. I will say I've learned a lot about the process because OES is just one very small window into how this software is used. It's used for things like search and rescue, like the recent avalanches up in the Truckee area. And it's also used for wildfire and other emergencies like winter storms. So we released a request for proposals that closed February 12th. We have a robust evaluation panel that's really trying to dig into those proposals through all angles. So in partnership with our sheriff's office, OES, our IS team, to make sure that we are putting in place potential alert and warning software that will not be vulnerable for security breaches. Town of Truckee, the COAD, and that is communities. So it's a way of organizing NGOs or nonprofits around disaster, which is in contrast to a VOAD, which is volunteers. But COADs usually deal with lots of different community interests, in particular vulnerable communities, so Spanish speakers, folks who are low income, folks who have access and functional needs. So they're on our panel to make sure that we hit on those interests, and then our local police department. We had hoped to bring our new contract to the Board of Supervisors on March 24th, but because the team really wanted to do basically platform testing and have all of those vendors showcase their software first, that has pushed it out by a week. So those analyses happen next week, so they're going to get to kind of do tours of the different software platforms that have risen to the top before making a final decision. And then we are mindful of rolling out our community education around this new platform in advance of wildfire season. We are tentatively planning to do a countywide test on May 2nd, teed up with this Wildfire Ready Coalition's event, so that way we can be on hand to help folks sign up, to understand that we have this new alert warning software. I want to be really clear that we haven't lost alert and warning capabilities, in that we still have a variety of other redundancies in the system. So we have an MOU with Truckee for alert on behalf. The sheriff's office still has their capabilities in terms of going out and doing door-to-doors using the high-low siren. So you would still, in an emergency, receive a wireless emergency alert. The only thing we've lost at this point in time is that opt-in capability. So if you opted in, that capability is not there, but you would still get a notification if you were in the vicinity of any danger. So I want to be really clear about that. It's really important to have redundancies in any system. And this is a great opportunity to, like I said, identify what works best for our community. So next slide. So I do have a request of all of you Firewise community leaders, and that is, please take a look at the educational materials that you have been historically pushing out to your communities, and make sure that you don't continue to push out things that reference Code Red. Because Code Red, I try to explain it to people like, we should be selling alert and warning software. You don't care if you're wearing Nikes or if you're wearing Adidas, like, right? The concept is alert and warning software or shoes. And then there's different brands you can choose. And unfortunately, the way we've branded our materials so far has been for a very specific Code Red, like we should all buy Nikes or we should all buy Adidas, versus what we want is alert and warning software that works for Nevada County. So this QR code can be scanned, and you guys can reorder outreach materials for all the materials that you may have on hand that reference Code Red, and we'll also be standing up a new suite of materials specific to whatever software we land on. If you go to Ready Nevada County Alerts, that's where we're going to have all that information as soon as it's available. So that will be like kind of your first place to go. I'm going to stop. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them or move on. I'm going to be at Sandie's direction.
Gosh, I've never been so quiet for so long. All right. Thank you to everyone who presented. As you'll see, this meeting is typically broken up a lot of information, things to digest. We're now moving into the portion of what do we do and what actions should we take as Firewise leaders and as residents of the community. Next slide, please. So for spring, we look at spring not by quarters. Hi, Theo, in the back. As you guys remember, in the winter time, we really focused around getting things in alignment, chilling out, trying to figure out sort of, what our plans are for the coming year. Now it's time to get to work. And so while we created a declaration, those of you who've been wondering what this is the Wildfire Ready Declaration. And we will encourage you guys to take a look at it. We'll be looking at this and weaving this into how we approach a lot of our messaging and how we expect our neighbors to behave. It's really a commitment to make Nevada County more wildfire ready. So for us, let's get down to work. Next slide, please. Spring is a time to start implementation above and beyond what we did in the winter time. So, yes.
A lot of talk.
I know. Guys in the back of the room, can we ask you guys to take your conversation outside?
You take
Guys, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to talk over. Thank you for coming, though. No, it's quite all right. We still have a little ways to go. Sorry about that. There's some background noise. Can you guys hear better? Is it better? Like I said, I can't actually get it in closer. So we all know that once the heat arises, it's a little bit too much for us. Next slide, please. We are talking about protecting what we love. And those of you who came to the Hearts on Fire event February 13th and or saw our campaigns around Show Your Love, we've got our Valentine love notes here. We're really leaning in, as Alex likes to say, to this notion of love the place where you live. And to do that, we need to protect it. We need to harden our homes and our properties and clear our access roads. Next slide. So I'm going to open this up just for a moment. This isn't news. We even gave you guys a cheat sheet and a handout on what the actions are that we typically do in spring. So what do you guys see taking place here on this picture? What's happening? Just shout it out. Anybody?
Cleaning up. Burn pile.
Burn piles.
Clearing roofs.
Clearing the gutters. What was that?
Cleaning the roof.
Cleaning the roof, clearing the gutters, burn piles.
Working with neighbors.
Fallen trees and branches.
Working with neighbors, living, chainsaws, all of these things. This is cyclical.
There's a party in the back.
There's a party in the back. That's where I'll be hanging out. Thank you,
I
Brad.
see a keg of beer over there.
Jeff's got the beer. Well, we're going to set up the stage. Please.
We haven't handed out.
Yes, we have. And everybody who came in got the checklist.
No.
Well, some people did. Okay, no worries. There's going to be checklists for everybody. Don't get too excited right now. But the reason we're doing this is to say, these are things we do every year, right? So we're not standing up here telling you anything new. Next slide, please. Let's talk about the checklist. Somebody who really got excited. What we've done differently this year is we've created a top 10 checklist for everybody who lives in Nevada County. Things that you should be doing on your property. We also, because most of us, you guys raised your hands earlier, are Firewise leaders or Firewise community members. One of the challenges that the coalition has faced is how do we continue to be a strong Firewise community? So on the back side of your paper, you've got a top 5 list that we're recommending for Firewise leaders. We'll go through this real quickly. Next slide, please. No surprises. Harden the home. Ember-resistant homes are the best way to make sure that your structures survive. And I say structures plural, because if you have 10 sheds on your property, like one of my neighbors does, every shed needs to be hardened as well. So there's a whole thing around that. And the coalition has been helping, as Joanne mentioned earlier, with the Wildfire Ready Prepared Home workshops. So we're not just saying, hey, guys, these are things that should be done. We're also helping you learn what it is and specifics around it. Same with the reduce the fuel. I don't think there's a person here who doesn't know what defensible space is, right? How many of us are defensible space advisors on top of that? There we go. So we go to households, we help people learn what defensible space is, looking at 0 to 5, looking at, out to 300 feet if you've got larger properties, looking at your adjoining neighbors, things of that, how do you mitigate that? So reducing the fuel is the second most important thing. And as we focus tonight, there's a lot of discussion around roads, a lot of discussion. Actually, it wasn't discussion, a lot of information around roads. One of the workshops you're going to see we'll be hosting here in the spring is a deeper dive on making your roads safer for evacuation, not just for code. So that's another key point, is to ask yourselves, is your road wildfire ready? And we're going to help you understand how to know if it is and if it isn't. Next. So the workshops for all that we talked about a little bit, we have the forest walks, and we're going to show that in a minute because that's been the new program this year, one that has been incredibly popular. Some of you guys, where's Russell back here? Is Russell still here? Maybe he took off. Some people have gone to our winter walks more than once. They've signed up for multiple because they're so much fun. The Wildfire Ready homes we covered, and the new one is going to be around the evacuation roads that I just mentioned. Next, please. And here, if you can click, there's an arrow down there, Sandy. This is a forest walk that's taking place this Saturday in South County. And Zeno Acton with Acton Arboriculture is leading that walk. So all of the walks we have are being led by different foresters. We have one in Truckee, and Dylan Sheedy with Truckee Fire led that. And guess what? Everybody was on snowshoes. So they had a good time out there. And basically the whole idea is We have trees on our land, and we don't necessarily know what we're supposed to do with those trees, which trees are healthy, which trees need spacing. And so this is a way to get out into the forest with
It's
those
not
other
for,
foresters,
it's
using
for
that
when
bulb
you're
and
out
get your questions
exercising and
answered.
doing all.
So we encourage you
Or
guys
you
to
can have
sign
the
up.
other
There's
half.
still about 4 or 5 more walks taking place through the end of March. So go ahead, next slide, please. 2 items that are coming up. We call these special events. We mentioned the Hearts on Fire. If you didn't go, you missed a good time. The first one is not necessarily a good time. We're launching a documentary film and a panel that will be held here in Grass Valley. And it's called Standing Dead, Overstocked, Overgrown, and Overdue. And Joanne, this is, I think, a heart project for her. Her care and her concern for this community, literally, I'll cry. I mean, she has put her heart and soul into this, not only the organization, but this project, because she grew up in Butte County and Plumas County, and the fires there have been completely devastating. And I know in the past, I've talked to some CAL FIRE staff who have said that their goal is to not connect Plumas and Butte County to Forest Hill mosquito fire. And if you look at fire history maps, our area is the last big unburned area. So this documentary is going to help us understand what we're facing. And it's not just for you guys in this room because you're here, but we have to be the messengers and go out to our neighbors and really start to leverage the realities of the potential and do this. So we hope that when we have that film, that you guys will come. There'll be a registration. It will be free if you sign up in advance. And then that will be followed on May 2nd by the Wildfire Ready Festival and Expo. Again, an opportunity to get information and tools that you can use back in your homes and your properties and your neighborhoods. Next, please. So, Firewise communities. We're challenged. How many of us feel, just show of hands, how many of you guys feel sometimes that you're leading and nobody's following? How many of you are looking for a succession plan and trying to find somebody younger to help you with what you're trying to do? You are my younger back there. Put your hand down. So click, please. So thank you, because we're all in the same boat. And with you at Firewise, basically we have 20 sections under our belt. We're 13,000 acres, 700 parcels, 9-mile one-way in, one-way out road, 81 roads, 52 road miles. I'm exhausted. Build capacity. We need people to help. We need to be able to spread the wealth and have people believe that if they're going to raise their families here, they have to help keep their areas safe. We have to show visible action. Carolyn in the back of the room and I were about to do a Scotch broom work party. County came through and masticated the Scotch broom. So we didn't have to do the work party, but now we have a proliferation. But we need to show visible action, right? We need to be able to show that things are making progress. We do have neighbors who have masticated 8 acres, highly visible. We have had a microgrant from the county where the fire behavior path came up. And if we didn't have that, the fire would blow over. So we chose to put our microgrant right where everybody could see it. Make things visible. Stand at an intersection of your road and sign people up. If you have a one-way in, one-way out road, you've got a trapped audience. Grow the bench. There's new people moving into this community all the time. And they're coming in with a mindset of how can I get involved? What can I do? So those on the back piece of your paper, those of you guys who picked it up, we want you guys to promote what we're doing to your neighbors. We're here to help make that easier. So take a look at what we are offering from a workshops perspective and events perspective and make sure that you promote those to your community. With that said, I won't go over these because all of you guys are getting the newsletters on the workshops, but seriously, we've got a huge slate of folks who are contributing to these, and the information, like even when I was listening to Dan talk back there, I'm in my mind going, wow, we might need a deep dive on some of these roads, right? Maybe that was another workshop in there. And that's what Karen was saying earlier. If you have ideas for things, that's what we're workshopping on. So don't be shy about saying, hey, I'd like to have a little bit more time on a given conversation and a deeper dive on a topic. That's what it's for. The winter walks came about because I said, I don't know how to figure out what to do on my property with my trees. And wouldn't it be nice if somebody who knew about trees would walk me on the forest? So that's the genesis of how these things are coming together. Next slide, please. And this is where we ask you guys to participate, right? Every single quarterly meeting, we're asking you to share things out. It doesn't matter if you are, doing banners, tying the trees, putting flyers on mailboxes, social media, regular old newsletters. It's all good, but make sure you take this information and do something with it. It's not good enough just to know it yourself. You have to pass it on, and you have to share it. And some of it's pretty cool. Go ahead. Next up. All right. I'm doing it with you. Go ahead.
All right, what's coming up next? We are going to keep expanding our support for Firewise communities, but I'll tell you right now, we need to increase the bench. I'm going to show you a picture of Casey and I in a minute here, and you'll know why. There's a few of us that put on the workshops. There's a few of us that do the mentoring. We can't do it all. There's a lot of demand, and a lot of you have a wealth of information out there. And if you don't know how to teach a workshop or mentor, we'll help you. We'll teach you how to do that. And we're going to work on strengthening the organization. Right now, there's great volunteers that are coming forward, and I don't have the time or the others working here as primary volunteers to even coordinate some of the great people that are coming. So we're going to be working more on developing the board and then membership and fundraising. Beth, can you stand up in the back? Beth is my savior. Beth, we finally had a little bit of resources to hire her for 8 hours a week, which is tremendous, but I usually give her about 60 hours a week. Next slide, please. So if you think you might be a candidate to help mentor someone, you don't have to spend a ton of time. You could just take on one person. And if I've helped you, that means you know how to help somebody else. I'm looking at somebody right there with glasses. All right, next slide. And if you're not on this list, that means that you're not going to start getting the Firewise community specific emails, because we've had people that, understandably don't like to get Firewise leaders specific emails when they're not. So we get people dropping off our newsletter email list. And if you need help from how to add me in there, just contact that and we'll help you do it. Next slide. Who do you think this is? Come here, Casey.
I think they can tell.
Yeah. So it's a labor of love, but we're worn out and we're not going to stop, but we need more help because it's not sustainable. A lot of the other key volunteers are better than I at getting out and taking vacations. I took one little camping trip last year. I can't keep this up. So next slide. When you take a workshop and there's handouts there, those come from us printing them. There's no magic fund out there. So when you see things that take money, they're usually from us key volunteers doing that. So I'm not going to ask you for a lot, but I don't know what it will take to help get members. I don't know. Maybe you can tell us. Just $25 a year. If you could get 10% of your Firewise communities to do that, that would help us a lot. Casey has a better way of saying it.
No, I just want to put that into a little bit of a context. Louise and I were talking earlier. She just took up pickleball and I play. My club dues for the Grass Valley Pickleball Club are $65 a year. I think they went up to $75. So to me, right, a social activity that I enjoy and get some camaraderie out of is great, but life-saving tips and helping me, you know, be able to say my property is worth more. I think we underbid that at $25. I want to, okay, how much do you think all the stuff the coalition's been doing for you, those of you who've been around for the year that we've been in round, is it $25 a year worth it, Paige?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah?
Think how much
Louise
people
says,
pay for their streaming services every month.
Louise, how much do you think we should be asking for? And it's free. We're not telling anybody they have to. Don't run away and just sneak out of the room. Nobody has to give money. I'm just curious, like, what's the value, right? 150, she says. I feel like I should be doing an auction here. We started on the $50, $50, 150, 150. What do I hear? What do I hear? What do you think it's worth? What do I hear? What do you think it's worth?
I think, you know, not everybody's gonna be able to even afford that, and I understand that, and that's okay. That's just fine with me. But I can guarantee you have people in your Firewise community that can. And if we're helping you lead them better, if just nothing else besides moral support, then I encourage you to do so, because it's not gonna continue to happen. I can't continue to mentor as many people and continue to do as many workshops, continue to be the board president and all those other things without being able to have someone like Beth there. So we're always going to be volunteer driven. That's always going to be the way it is. But it does take money to print copies, you know? So if this work matters to you, you can help fuel it. So that picture of us really is pretty accurate, although there's a little more gray hair.
All right. Is that Susan?
Envelopes in the back of the room.
Oh, wow. Somebody thought, wow, I didn't even know this was a coordinated effort. Apparently there are envelopes in the back of the room. Should we, like, is it church where we can go around and pass them down the aisle?
They have stamps.
They have stamps on them too? That's awesome. Okay, well, thank you. So I know many of you have donated, and thank you. And just for the record, you know, Joanne Drummond and Ann Fites-Kaufman, they are working on a larger fundraising strategy as well. So don't think that we're relying on all the neighbor communities. But there's 100,000 residents in that county plus, right, Alex? And the vast majority are in Firewise communities. So if everyone just donated $5, $10, you know, whatever it is, that could add up, be some significant dollars. Maybe we should do a GoFundMe or something. But anyway, thank you guys. Is there an official close coming, or just gonna be left hanging out here?
Question.
Oh, we have another meeting. Good.
Unfortunately, Joanne was so enthusiastic about coming up and telling you what's needed, we skipped Sandie's presentation. So I would like to invite Sandie up here to give her presentation.
Actually, this is really cool.
This is one of the things that we've been hearing about all evening long, how the Wildfire Ready Coalition is having organizations come up to us and say, what you are doing is fantastic. And have I got a way to help these leaders with their program? This is a new opportunity. It's Case Walters of the United Way of Nevada County came up to us, and they have a new initiative coming up that they have a beta program for. It's very much like something that we all already do. It's a neighbor-to-neighbor buddy program called the Buddy Evacuation Team. Case was so excited about how our Firewise communities work, looking out for our neighbors, that he has created, as part of this initiative being funded by the California Fire Foundation, a beta program for the Firewise communities to test and see if it will work for them, to help them create this neighbor-to-neighbor, a buddy looking out for vulnerable residents in your neighborhood. No cost to us, and he wants to design it to meet our needs. So we are looking for anybody that is interested in previewing what they have come up with. This is live on the United Way website, but he's wanting to work with us and our expertise within the field by March 8th. If this is something you'd be interested in previewing, we're not asking you to volunteer. We're not asking you to beta test at this point in time. But if you'd like to see if it would help you, how many Firewise communities have a buddy program where you have a neighbor looking out for another neighbor? Fabulous. So many of you already. So if this is something that would interest you and it might help you in keeping this system going, please get a hold of me at my email address, my phone number. There's also a sign-up sheet in the back, and there are some sheets by March 8th. Sorry, it's such short notice, but we want to get this previewed, and we want to start introducing it to our communities as a way to help the leaderships before we start having our spring program. So please get a hold of me. And with
Sandie, is the program an app or a website or?
it is accessible through a website address. And this is part of what we're going to be previewing is how the different ways are that it can be utilized. Right now, Case is just at a very general overview, so I don't have all the details on the program. There's not any questions, which I'm sure there's not because it's social time. Karen.